Hello there, this is Rahul, and in today's session we are going to talk about Prometheus and Grafana. Well, this is the first part of the series and where we will focus on how to install Prometheus server, Grafana server and Node exporter. If you are new to the Prometheus and Grafana setup and you are just getting started with the Prometheus and Grafana, then I would highly recommend to watch this session where we will start on virtual machine where we haven't installed anything before. So we will first install Prometheus server, then we are going to install Node exporter, and then we are going to install a Grafana server. So these are the basic steps which we will be targeting, and after that we are also going to see like how to configure a Grafana dashboard by creating a Prometheus data source. So this is going to be our first session where we will be focusing on these points. I'll also put the timestamp into the description section, so if you are interested in some specific topic, then just click on those timestamp. Let's switch over to our desktop and start with our Prometheus and Grafana setup. To start with, on the left hand side you can see this is the terminal, and this is my virtual instance where I will be installing the Prometheus server along with the Node exporter as well as the Grafana. And on the right hand side, this is the guide which I have prepared, and you will find all the instructions along with the command into this guide. So I'll put the link of this guide into the description section, so just feel free to use those commands while you're performing or you're trying to set up your Prometheus server along with the Grafana. Let's start from the step number 1, and the step number 1 is installation of a Prometheus. So if you follow the instruction, then here there is a download link, and this is the official download page from the Prometheus, and here we need to first download the Prometheus binary. Since I'm using the Linux operating system, that's why I'm just gonna use the Linux distribution or the Linux binary for installing my Prometheus. So here just copy the link from here, go to your terminal, and here first of all I'm just gonna create a directory and go to that directory and simply run the command wget and paste the URL, and it should download the Prometheus binary onto your local system. Okay, now that's been done. In case if you are using Windows operating system, then you can download this Windows zip, you can extract the Windows zip, and then you can install the Prometheus onto your Windows machine. So just use this zip file for installing onto the Windows operating system. But for this tutorial, we are gonna use the Linux or the Ubuntu as our base operating system. Let's extract the file, and the command which we are gonna use is tar xvfz, and after that we are gonna enter the name of the file and simply hit enter. And I'll clear the screen. We can verify by using the command lslrt so that we can verify the content, and this is the extracted directory. I'll go into that directory and simply again we can run the command ll or lslart, and here you can see these are the content which we got after extracting the Prometheus zip file. Let's run the Prometheus server, and the command for running the Prometheus server is dot and then /, and after that you just simply need to type the Prometheus. So this is the binary which we need to execute to run the Prometheus server, and simply hit enter. And this is the command which I have mentioned over here in the guide, so you can just copy this command to start your Prometheus server. And by default this Prometheus server will start on the port 9090. And since I'm using the virtual machine, so I need to provide the virtual machine IP. So here you can see this is the address where our Prometheus server has started, and this is the virtual machine which I am using. So the virtual machine IP is 192.168.56.1. In case you are installing without any virtual machine and you are installing onto your local system, then instead of using this IP you should use localhost. But let's go back to the browser, paste the IP address, and after that you can enter the port number. And here you can see this is the first UI which you will get after installing the Prometheus server. Let's have a look on the UI of a Prometheus server. So this is the default UI which you get after installing the Prometheus server, and here you can see this is the expression bar where you can enter the PromQL, which is the Prometheus query language. And to give an example, if you simply type up over here and click execute, then it will let you know all the available or the active host on which the Prometheus is running. So right now we have installed it on a local host. That's why it is showing localhost 9090. In case if it is connected with a different remote server, then it will show you all the list of those remote server over here. So this is just an example how you're going to use the this PromQL structured query language over here. The another thing over here, if you go into the status section and if you click on the targets, then it is also going to show you like how many nodes or how many remote server Prometheus server is scrapping. So as of now, we have installed the Prometheus on the local host. That's why we are showing it is showing us only one host. And if you're going to add further more resources, which we are going to do into the later section, so here the list will keep on increasing. So this is the very basic UI where you can interact with your Prometheus server. If you want to see the metrics, then you can simply change the URL over here. Instead of graph, you can simply type the metrics and hit enter. Then here you can see all the metrics which is like a scrapped via Prometheus server. Now after installing the Prometheus server, the next thing which we are going to install is the node exporter. But before we install the node exporter, let's try to understand what is node exporter is. So this diagram shows a relationship between the Prometheus server. On the left hand side you can see this is my Prometheus server, and on the right hand side these are my remote server, and where I have installed or I am going to install the node exporter. So Prometheus server is just like a collector. It collects all the data which is like sent by a node exporter. So till now, if you look at here, then on the left hand side we have just installed the Prometheus server and that is up and running. Now what we are going to do, we are going to install the node exporter. So the first of all, we need to have another host or another server where we can install the node exporter. So for this tutorial, we are going to install node exporter on two servers. The first server would be a Prometheus itself. So first of all, we have installed Prometheus server, and along with that, we are going to install the node exporter on this system also. And secondly, we are going to start one more virtual machine, and on that virtual machine, we are going to install the node exporter. So this Prometheus server will collect the data from its own host, that is localhost, because we have installed the node exporter, and then it is also going to collect from the remote machines. So there is no limit on installing or to connecting Prometheus server with other node exporters. So you can have n number of instances running into your infrastructure. So here you can see there are 3 machines. So you need to install the node exporter on the 3 machines, and then you need to tell Prometheus server to collect the data from these 3 hosts. So that we are going to see into the next step. Alright, so what I have did now on this terminal, as you can see, this is the process which is running. So this is the process for starting our Prometheus server, and that is up and running. So you can see over here, if I refresh this page, then it's showing us the metrics. And on the bottom, I have again opened a new terminal, and this terminal is still connected to the same Prometheus server, as you can see over here, and that you can verify from here also. So here you can see. So both the terminal are connecting to the same server, that is Prometheus server. And now I'm going to install the node exporter. And for that, what you need to do is go to the step number 2.1, and here there is a download link for node exporter. So click on it, open it. And here you will find the installation packages or binaries which you need to download. Since I'm using the Linux operating system, so I'm just going to use this Linux AMD64 zip file. Copy the link from here, and I'm just gonna check. Okay, I'm just need to create one more directory. So I'm just gonna create a directory mkdir node exporter. Switch to that directory, clear the screen, type the command wget, paste the URL, and hit enter. Alright, so now we have downloaded the node exporter onto our Prometheus server. Let's extract the zip file. I'll clear the screen. I'm just gonna paste the command tar xvfz, and after that we need to type in the zip file and extract it. And again, we can verify the content by running the command ls, and here we can see this is the extracted directory. Go into that directory. I'll clear the screen, and I can run the command again ls. And here you can see this is the binary of node exporter which we need to run to start our node exporter onto Prometheus server. Let's start the node exporter, and the command which I'm gonna use is // and then the node exporter, and simply hit enter. And this should start the node exporter. To verify it, it should be started on a port 9100, and you should use the host IP. Since I'm using the virtual machine, that's why I'm just gonna use the virtual machine IP address. So this is my virtual machine IP address, and in case you are installing it on your local machine without using any virtual machine, then you simply need to type localhost, and after that you need to specify the port, that is 9100. But I'm using the virtual machine, that's why I'm just not gonna use the local host, but instead I'm just gonna use the actual IP address of my virtual machine which we have assigned. So this is the UI which you're gonna see, and if you click on the matrix, then here you can see all the matrix which is like a scrapped from our Prometheus server using the node exporter. So this is the first verification which you need to do after installing the node exporter. So till now we have accomplished two tasks. One is we have installed the Prometheus server, which you can see over here, which is running on a 9090 port, and if you replace it with the graph, then you can see this is the graph, and this is also running on the same host as I told you. And this is my node exporter matrix UI. So here you can see all the matrix which is like a scrap from our Prometheus server. There is one important concept which I would like to mention over here is, like, here on the left hand side you can see this is our Prometheus server which we have installed, and we have also installed the node exporter on the same Prometheus server. But this node exporter and this Prometheus server still don't know each other. So we need to make a communication or the link between the node exporter and the Prometheus server. And that's why we are gonna create a exporter config.yml, and this is a configuration YML which tells like which node exporter our Prometheus server is going to use. So in this exporter config.yml, we are gonna mention like a local host, because we just want to use the node exporter on the Prometheus server. So we are gonna add the entry of our local host into our exporter config.yml, so that our Prometheus server knows like this is the node exporter I'm gonna use it. So in case if you wanna add one more server, so let's say this is our another server with the IP address 192.168.56.2. So we need to add this entry into the exporter config.yml also. So, and this server will also have a node exporter installed on it. So what is happening over here is we are sending the matrix of our localhost Prometheus server, as well as we are sending the matrix of our remote machine that is located on 192.168.56.2. And these entries you will find into exporter config.yml. I'm just going to show you the exporter config.yml in a short. So this is the exporter config.yml which I was talking about, and here the first parameter is the scrap interval, that is 15 seconds. So this scrap interval tells Prometheus server to scrap a remote machine every after 15 seconds. The next thing is the scrap config, and the scrap config there are one more flag, that is targets. In the targets we need to mention the remote machine host name or the IP address. Since we are doing this for a tutorial purpose, that's why I have used the localhost 9100. That means we just want to scrap our own Prometheus server. That's why I'm using the local host. And also we are gonna scrap a remote machine which is located on the IP 192.168.56.2, and the port is 9100, because we have installed the node exporter on that remote machine also. We are gonna do that step later into this session, but this is just an just to give you an idea. So here in the target section, you need to replace the host name or the IP address based on your requirement and the situation. So this is how exporter config ML looks like. Alright, let's create the exporter config.yml, and here on the left hand side you can see on the top we are running the Prometheus server, and on the bottom we are running the node exporter. So what I'll do, I'll just stop the Prometheus server, and after that I'll clear the screen. And let's create the file first. So I'm just going to use the touch command, and the name of the file is exporter config.yml. And we can verify using the command lslart, and this is the file which we have created. Let's do one thing. This path is too long, so I'm just gonna reduce it by using the command. So let's put $sign over here and hit enter. Okay, I'll clear it. So now I have just removed the complete path. It was getting too long. Anyway, so now we have the exporter config.yml created, but the file is empty. So I'm just going to copy this configuration from here, open the exporter config in the VI mode and go into the edit mode, paste the content. And one thing which you need to do is we need to change the IP address because we are not running on 100.0.1. So I'll just go over here and I'll just change the IP, or I can remove the IP because we have not started the remote machine yet. So I'm just going to simply remove it. I'm just going to simply run it on a local host because we have not started the virtual machine yet. So save and quit. Okay, so now what you have seen over here, we have created the exporter config.yml and we can verify the content of it once again. And yeah, and it is scrapping the target local host. That's fine. I'll clear it. And if you go to the guide, now what we need to do, we need to tell the Prometheus to use this config file. And to do that, what you need to do is you need to start the Prometheus server the way we did previously. Apart from that, you need to specify the flag, that is config file, and then the file name. So I'm just going to copy this command over here, paste it over here, and here I'm just going to specify the export config.yml so that our Prometheus server knows like which host it needs to scrap, and simply hit enter. And this is how it is gonna read that remote configuration of a node exporter. And here you can see this is the file name which our Prometheus server is using for scrapping those hosts. Later on we are gonna start one more machine, and in that we are gonna install the node exporter, and then we are gonna edit or add the entry of that remote machine IP address over here. So that we are gonna do a little bit later. Let's verify our scrap configuration. If you go to our Prometheus server, this graph URL, I'll just remove once again and hit enter. And here you need to go on to the targets, and it might be possible that it is not showing up, so just click on show more. And here you can see this is the host which we are trying to scrap, that is our local host. The status is up, and here you will find the information like scrap duration, that is 15 seconds, that we have configured into our scrap configuration YML. And the last configuration last scrap which has happened, that is 18 seconds ago. So this is the like a UI of our server, Prometheus server, which tells like how the scrapping is going on and when was the last time we have scrapped our host machine. So from here you can verify our scrap configuration which we have applied. Now what we are going to do, we are going to start one more machine. So we are going to start one more remote machine instead of local host, and we are going to add node configuration for that remote machine also. So we are going to see one more entry over here. Okay, so this is my Prometheus client remote machine, and if I can show you the IP address. So this is the IP address of my remote machine 192.168.56.2. So I have just started another virtual machine with a different IP address, and this is here you can see the multiple terminals. So on this terminal I am running my Prometheus server, and this is my node exporter running over here, and this is my Prometheus server with my exporter config.yml. So here you can see this is the exporter configure YML which I have started, and here I have started one more virtual machine, and that is our Prometheus client. And on this machine I'm just gonna install the node exporter first. This is a very simple virtual machine right now, and I have not installed anything. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go back over here. Here click on the node exporter, copy the URL, and I'm just gonna create a directory node exporter, cd node exporter wget, and paste the command, clear it, and then we need to extract it. So I'm just gonna copy the command, paste it over here, and node, I'm just gonna extract it, go to the directory, and I'm just gonna start the node exporter over here also and hit enter. So now we have started the node exporter on our remote machine, and we can verify using the IP. So I'm just gonna simply copy this IP, open a new tab, put 2, and then the port 200, and here you can see our metrics of our node exporter. So now we have installed the node exporter on our remote machine, but what we need to do, we need to tell our Prometheus server. So I will go back to my first terminal. So this is my Prometheus server over here, which is running. I'm just gonna stop it. I'll clear the screen and verify our exporter config. So here you can see we have only added a local host. We have not added a remote entry of our remote machine. So if you go back to our URL 192.168.90.90, I have stopped my Prometheus server, but let's start it again. Okay, so I have started it back again, and if you go into the targets, then here you can see there is only one host which is showing up. I have just started, so that's why the status is unknown. But once I'll add that entry, I mean to say, once I add the entry of my remote machine, then there will be another host showing up over here, and here it has gone to up. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna kill the Prometheus server again, and I'll clear the screen, and I'm just gonna open into VI mode, the exporter config, and go into edit mode and add the entry, and I'll just copy the address from here, copy it, go over here and paste it over here. All right, after that I'm just gonna save and quit. One thing which I realize over here while editing my external config, I don't need to put HTTP. I just need to put the IP address or the host name and the port number. So I'm just gonna remove the HTTP, and I'm just gonna save and quit. And after that I'll clear the screen and just restart our Prometheus server. And now we have started our Prometheus server. I'm just gonna refresh my Prometheus URL and it's starting up. I'll go to status, go to target. I just wait for a second or so, and here you can see. Now, as I mentioned previously, we have not added any remote host. That's why there were only one entry, which is of localhost. But now we have added one more host, and now we can see the entry over here. So we have just started the server. That's why the status is unknown. I'll just refresh it once more, and here you can see the status is up for both the hosts, and now we are scrapping both local host as well as our remote machine. And here the instances, here you can see the verify the IP address over, and also the last scrap and the scrap duration. So this is how you configure a remote host. Like here, this is the remote host which is running and where we have installed the node scrapper. And here we are having the Prometheus which is running with our node exporter config.yml, which contains the entry of both the host. So this is how you are gonna configure the remote node exporter or the remote host node exporter onto your Prometheus server. Now, if you look back at this picture, then we have set up the Prometheus server, we have set up a node exporter, we have set up the exporter config.yml. The missing piece into this diagram is the Grafana. So now we have set up the whole infrastructure ready for our Grafana dashboard. And we have the data which is being scrapped from our local host, that is Prometheus server, as well as from a remote machine. And now we are scrapping all those data into our Prometheus server. Now the next task is we need to visualize the information in the form of a dashboard. And for that we are gonna use the Grafana. So the next thing what we are going to do over here is we need to install the Grafana, and this Grafana is going to use the data source which we are going to create it later, and that data source is going to be a Prometheus data source. So here you can see this is our Prometheus server, and later on we are going to create a data source which will connect this Prometheus server with our Grafana dashboard. Okay, to install the Grafana, this is our step number 3rd, and here we have the instructions for installing the Grafana. On the left hand side I have opened the one more terminal, and I'm again connected to the same Prometheus server. So here you can see there are a couple of terminals which I have opened previously. So this is our Prometheus server which is up and running. You can see over here this is our node exporter which is also running on the same Prometheus server. And if we go to the second terminal, then this is our node exporter of our remote machine that is also running. And then I have opened one more terminal just to keep the thing simple. So now I'm connected on a Prometheus server, and here I'm just gonna install my Grafana server also, so that we can visualize everything onto the dashboard. So the first instruction which we are gonna follow, we are just gonna update the package info. So copy this command from here, go to terminal and paste it over here. And also if you want to follow the official link, so these instructions I have copied from this official link of Grafana. So just click on this link if none of the instructions are working, so you can get the exact copy of the same instruction from the official guide. I'm just gonna copy the second one. I'll clear the screen. I'll just paste the command. Okay, that's been done. I'll run the final command. I'll clear it, paste it over here. Okay, that's been done. Now I will add the stable repository of a Grafana into my Ubuntu, and for that I'm just going to copy it. I'll clear the screen, paste it over here, hit enter, and that's been done. And now what I need to do is I need to update my repository information because I have recently added a Grafana repository. So I'll just do sudo apt-get update, paste it over here, hit enter. And that's been done. Let's install the Grafana. Copy this command, go back to terminal, clear the screen, and paste the installation command. Type Y for installation. Okay, so now the Grafana server has been installed. After installing the Grafana server, we are going to start the Grafana service, and for that we are going to use this command to start our Grafana server. So we'll start from the first command. I'll clear the screen over here. I have already copied the command. I'm just going to paste it over here. After that we are going to start the Grafana server, paste it over here, and then I'm just going to check the status of my Grafana server service and paste the command over here. And here you can see our Grafana server has been started and the status is active and running. One more thing, if you want to start the Grafana server on a boot time, that means once you restart your Ubuntu or Linux machine and you want the Grafana service to be up and running, then you can simply execute this command. So whenever you are going to restart your machine, then you don't need to manually restart your Grafana server. It will start automatically. So simply run this command, and that will take care of a Grafana start during the boot time. I'll clear the screen. The next question is how to access the Grafana dashboard. So as you can see over here, I have mentioned the URL to be localhost 3000. But since I'm working on a virtual machine, that's why I'm not going to use the localhost, but instead I'm just going to use the IP address of my virtual machine. And in case if you have installed the Grafana on your local machine without using any virtual machine, then simply you can use this URL localhost 3000 and it should open you the login page of Grafana. So let's open the new tab over here and paste the URL. So this is the IP of my virtual machine, and remember this is the same IP where I have installed the Prometheus server also. But here I'm just going to use the port 3000 because that's where I will be able to access my Grafana dashboard. So simply hit enter. And here you can see this is the default, or this is the login page of my Grafana. So this is the first time I am using the Grafana. That's why I'm just going to use the default username and password, and that is admin. And since it's the first time we are using it, then it's gonna ask for new password and confirm new password. So I'm just gonna type the new password and then submit. I'm just not gonna save it. I'm just gonna click over here. So as you can see, this is the default dashboard of our Grafana. So that means if you are able to see this dashboard, then that means you have successfully installed Grafana onto your Linux machine or Windows machine, whatever operating system you are using. Moving back to the guide, now we have set up the Grafana server and we are able to access the Grafana dashboard, and we have changed the default admin username and password. The next thing is we need to set up the dashboard using the Prometheus data source. So the next thing which we are going to do, we are going to create a Prometheus data source. And as I have mentioned earlier, Prometheus server is different and Grafana server is different. There is no communication happening between those two servers. And to make that happen, we need to create a data source. So data source is the communication link between the Prometheus server and the Grafana dashboard. So for that purpose, we'll go on to the Grafana dashboard, click on this this settings icon, and here you will find the option to create a data source. Click on it. And once you click on this data source, I have already created one, that's why it is showing up here, but you will find this option, a blue color button, that is add data source. Click on it, and here you will find the different sources with which you can create a data sources. Since we are working with the Prometheus, so I'm just gonna choose Prometheus. And here one thing you should remember, you need to specify the host URL of your Prometheus server. And since this whole session, in this whole session, we have installed the Prometheus server as well as the Grafana server on the same virtual machine. That means our both the instances of server, that is Prometheus and Grafana, running on a same Linux or Ubuntu system. That's why I can use the same URL, that is http localhost 9090. So I don't need to change the URL over here because my local the Prometheus server and the Grafana server are running on the same machine. But in case if you have installed the Prometheus and Grafana on a different machine, then you need to specify the correct IP or the host name of your Prometheus server. So that's the only thing which you need to remember while creating a data source. Alright, now I have created, or I have mentioned the URL, and then click on save and test to verify it. And here you can see our data source has been updated and our data source is working. So now what you can do, you can just click on back, and yeah, now we have created our data sources. Let's move back to the guide and see what are the next instructions are. So here you can see all of these instructions we have already performed. We have created a data source for Prometheus, we have mentioned the URL, and we have saved and tested and created our data source. The next thing is we need to create a dashboard. Now we have the data source, and now our Grafana server is communicating with our Prometheus server. And now we are going to create a dashboard so that we can visualize some of the things. Okay, so for that there is one cool feature which is provided by Grafana Labs, and if you head over to this link, this Grafana Lab link which I have mentioned in the blog, so I'll open this link over here. Then here you will find the predefined or already created dashboard by other developers. So in case if you are having a similar requirement and you can find similar dashboard over here, then you can use that dashboard as it is by importing into your Grafana server. So you don't need to create the whole dashboard from the scratch. And for the same thing, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use, since I'm using the Linux machines, and I just want to visualize those matrices like GPU or the RAM or the CPU. So for that, I'm just going to search with the keyword Linux memory into our Grafana Labs and try to find some similar dashboards. So just type in over here Linux memory, and here you can see there is one dashboard which is like created, and it has been downloaded like 1.81k times. So it's quite a good dashboard, I would say. Click on it, and here you will find some of the information. The key thing which over here is this ID 2747, because this is the important ID which we need for importing this dashboard into our Grafana server. So here you will find some screenshot, and here you can see like what this dashboard looks like and how, if it's relevant to you, then you can use it. Okay, so this is the screenshot of this dashboard, and I think I can use it since I'm doing it for the demo purpose, but there are some really good dashboards available onto this link, so you can just search around. All right, so I'll just copy this code from here. I'll go back to my dashboard. This is Grafana. I have already created the data source. I'll click on this plus icon for importing the dashboard. Go to import, enter the number, that is 2747, click on load, and then you need to select the data source. So here you can see it has successfully imported the dashboard, and this dashboard is maintained by a guy, Fritz Hogland. That's okay, and this dashboard has been last updated on 2018. So it's an old dashboard, but since we are working for a demo, so that's fine for us. Okay, so here the one thing which you need to be a little bit careful here is the dashboard, or sorry, not dashboard, the data source. So here you need to carefully select the data source. So here I have created the data source Prometheus 1 previously, and so I'm just gonna select the data source because this is from where it is gonna fetch the relevant data and to show it on to our dashboard. So I'm just gonna select Prometheus 1, click on import, and here you can see this is the dashboard which is like created by that user, and I can see all my data over here. So here some of the statistics of the Linux memory distribution, swap usage, and yeah, it's a very basic dashboard, I would say. Okay, so now we have done the final step, like importing a dashboard into our Grafana server or the Grafana UI. And I think this is the basic steps which you need to do for configuring your Prometheus server, node exporter, and the Grafana server to visualize anything. So this is the last step for this session, and the next thing which I'm planning to do is the alert manager. So now we have seen the node exporter, but we haven't seen the alert manager yet, but we have seen the crucial components involved in this setup. So in the next session, we are gonna see how to set up the alert manager so that we can trigger some alert based on certain conditions, such as like a CPU usage, memory usage, or if some of the node is going down. So we are gonna see the alert manager also into the next session. If you like the today's session, then please consider subscribing to this channel where I keep on posting similar DevOps content on a weekly basis. And in the upcoming session, we are gonna look on the alert manager and also how to set up Prometheus and Grafana for our Kubernetes cluster running on AWS. See you into the next session of our DevOps. Till then, take care and bye bye.